Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Rebecca Rand.
In our top story, the state of Israel is anxiously awaiting the final results of the U.S. presidential election. Jerusalem has enjoyed 4 years of the Trump administration, which saw the most positive developments in U.S.-Israel relations. The presidential campaign was one-sided in Israel among the American expat community, which visibly supported Donald Trump with caravans, rallies at the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, and huge billboards thanking the president for his strong support of the Jewish state. The momentous changes that Trump has nourished in the Middle East are in danger of collapse if he's not reelected. Israel, as well as the moderate Arab states, which are under threat from Iran, are all extremely concerned over the future of the region if the United States changes leadership.
The Trump administration has righted a decades-long injustice by allowing U.S. citizens born in the Israeli capital to list Jerusalem, Israel on their U.S. passports. Until now, American citizens were listed as born in Jerusalem, a position which refrained from identifying the city as the capital of the Jewish state. During a ceremony held at the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, U.S. Ambassador David Friedman thanked President Trump and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo for officially changing this policy. He said, "Today we are righting an old wrong and strengthening yet again the unbreakable bond between our two countries." Friedman said it's no secret that under prior stewardship, the State Department would not alter the passport designation even after Jerusalem was recognized as Israel's capital. Secretary Pompeo cut through that bureaucracy and brought our passport policy in line with our foreign policy and common sense.
The Jewish state is slowly reopening after a strict lockdown due to the coronavirus. Last week, 500,000 Israeli children returned to school in learning capsules and on abbreviated schedules. This initial step allowed students in grades 1 through 4 to go back to their classrooms, while the higher grades remained at home, learning online. This follows a massive operation dubbed Education Shield, which saw 75,000 members of Israel's teaching staff tested for COVID-19 before schools were allowed to reopen.
2 Israeli hospitals began human trials for the Life coronavirus vaccine last week. Jerusalem's En-Kerem Hospital and Sheba Medical Center in Tel HaShomer will be running simultaneous trials of the Israeli-developed vaccine. This medication has already been tested and found to be effective on animals. In phase 1 of the trial, 80 healthy volunteers between the ages of 18 and 55 will receive injections and will be monitored for a period of 3 weeks. If successful, phase 2 will commence in December and include 960 volunteers. The third and final phase of the trial should begin in April or May and will test the Life vaccine on 30,000 volunteers.
Jewish institutions in Vienna, Austria were shuttered after a Muslim terrorist killed 4 and wounded more than 20 people. The shooting rampage began outside Vienna's main synagogue in the city's Central First District. Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz called the carnage a repulsive terror attack and said the terrorist was well equipped, well prepared, and armed with automatic weapons. He said that he could not rule out an anti-Semitic motive, and as a precaution, all Jewish schools, synagogues, kosher markets, restaurants, and Jewish institutions were closed.
After years of litigation, a Jerusalem court has found Palestinian Authority officials complicit in a suicide bombing that killed 3 people and wounded 80. 16 years ago, the families of Gadi and Sipi Shemesh, who were killed in the 2002 attack, filed the lawsuit against the Palestinian Authority and the PLO. The suit claimed that the terrorists responsible were members of the Palestinian factions and that they acted based on the PA's policy, which allowed and even encouraged the murder of Israeli civilians. The court's ruling is based in part on the fact that the materials used for the bomb were taken from the office of the PA's head of general intelligence, who paid one of his aides to drive the terrorists to the scene of the attack. Evidence was also presented proving the terrorist who committed the attack had been arrested by the PA and was released in order to carry out the suicide bombing at the request of an officer in the PA's general intelligence apparatus.
A bipartisan bill proposed in the U.S. Senate would encourage the Defense Department to sell bunker buster bombs to Israel. These munitions are capable of penetrating heavily fortified compounds, such as the underground Iranian nuclear facilities at Natanz and Fordow. Israel has actively sought to purchase the massive ordnance penetrators, or MOP bombs, which would give Jerusalem a qualitative military edge in the Middle East, something the White House has vowed to maintain.
Jerusalem is considering partially opening its borders to business tourists. The Ministry of Economy and Industry has proposed allowing business people with special permits from green countries to enter Israel. The Jewish state closed its borders to non-residents at the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. The government noted that until the borders open entirely, admittance should be permitted to individuals whose contribution to the economy is vital. This will allow for the continued functioning of Israeli companies and help prevent further damage to the economy.
England's Labour Party has suspended its former leader, Jeremy Corbyn. This comes only after a government watchdog organization revealed that the party had broken equality laws in its handling of complaints of Corbyn's anti-Semitism. The government investigation found that the Labour Party was responsible for unlawful acts of harassment and discrimination. Corbyn has been accused of sparking a massive surge in anti-Semitism in the UK through his unrepentant anti-Jewish and anti-Israel rhetoric. He publicly called terrorists from Hamas and Hezbollah his friends. And in 2014, Corbyn participated in a memorial ceremony and laid a wreath for terrorists belonging to the Black September group who massacred 11 Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics in 1972.
The number of Jews in Europe has fallen to the lowest point in 1,000 years. A study conducted by the Institute for Jewish Policy Research revealed that Europe has lost 60% of its Jewish population since 1970. Only 1.3 million Jews remain in Europe. This is the same number recorded by the Jewish scholar Benjamin of Tudela in the year 1170. The study notes that rising anti-Semitism and assimilation throughout the continent has contributed to the high rate of immigration.
The Dead Sea Works Company has launched one of the largest and most complex infrastructure projects in Israel. The Salt Harvest Plan aims to collect salt from one of the ponds in the Dead Sea and transfer it to a channel on its northern side. The goal is to maintain a stable water basin in the pond, preserving the foundations of structures in the area, namely the Dead Sea hotels. The undertaking is expected to cost about 7 billion shekels, or $2 billion. Noam Goldstein, the president of Israel Chemicals Limited, which owns the Dead Sea Works, said this endeavor will allow the continued development of tourism in the Dead Sea alongside industry, creating new jobs and encouraging people to move to the area.
Israeli wines produced in the Golan Heights have been exported to Dubai and are available for sale in the Emirati capital. The Abraham Accords have allowed economic cooperation between Israel and the Gulf states, and the export of Golan wines to Dubai is just one positive development of the newly established ties. 3 brands of Golani wine, Gamla, Mount Hermon, and Yarden, have already hit the shelves in the UAE and will be available to non-Muslims in hotels, restaurants, and alcohol stores.
The state of Israel has experienced the blessings of the first rains of the season. Jews around the world have been praying for rain since the last day of Sukkot, known as Shmini Atzeret. Last year, God blessed Israel by ending a 5-year drought with record-breaking downpours that raised the level of the Sea of Galilee by 19.5 centimeters. The first winter storms caused power outages in some coastal cities and flooding along the main highway to the Red Sea resort city of Eilat. Rain is extremely important in the land of Israel, and the first rain is seen as a blessing from God. As it says in Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 14, I will give you the rain in your land in its season, the first rain and the last. We are living in mysterious yet miraculous times. We've witnessed the most remarkable fulfillment of biblical prophecy, the Jewish people's return to Israel, and the prosperity and contributions of this tiny country in such a short time. Yet we've also seen an unexpected rise in anti-Semitism, which takes the form of anti-Zionism and alliances between groups that are fighting against the most fundamental biblical values. In the book Titus, Trump, and the Triumph of Israel, Josh Reinstein answers important questions to clarify what has driven political action from the time that the Roman Emperor Titus destroyed Jerusalem until today, when President Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Get your copy today and learn how faith-based diplomacy has changed the world. To order your advance copy, go to triumphofisrael.com.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Please stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Brigadier General Amir Avivi. He's the founder of Protectors of Israel. Amir, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Tell our viewers a little bit about what is the Protectors of Israel organization.
Well, our organization was founded to do one major thing, to ensure that Israel will be secure and survive and will thrive for generations to come.
The makeup of your organization, what makes it so unique. Can you tell us about who's in the organization? Who are the members?
Well, since we founded the organization in February, 1,200 high-ranking officers, commanders, and warriors joined the organization.
And you've had a very powerful message about security for Israel, specifically on the issue of sovereignty. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, we think that in order for Israel to thrive, to be secure forever, we don't know what will happen in the future. Israel must apply sovereignty in the Jordan Valley. There is no security without towns. It must apply sovereignty over the Jewish towns in Judea and Samaria in order to enable the army to operate freely and make Israel secure.
You hear a lot about left-wing generals in Israel saying we need to give up land, we have to divide the country, it's the only way. Why is there that sentiment that the top generals, the top brass in Israel, are usually on the left?
Well, I think that their top value is not security, it's peace agreements. They believe that if you sign a paper, this will make Israel secure. We think that Israel must be able to defend itself by itself. We know that peace agreements might work for a certain time, and then they might not. So we want to draw clear lines. What are the security needs for the state of Israel in the long term? Not what will happen in the 5-10 years from now, but generations from now.
What we've seen with the Abrahamic Accords, the peace agreements with the United Arab Emirates and then with Bahrain and other countries to follow, is that in fact, peace only comes if you're strong. It's peace through strength, isn't it? So those generals who are saying that peace agreements are the most important thing, they were wrong about giving away the land.
Yeah, you are right. Peace will come only when the Arab states will understand they cannot defeat Israel. Once they see a powerful state, talking about the army, talking about economy, talking about high-tech, then they have the incentive to be in touch with Israel and do business, make peace.
We see a lot in the international media that they talk about left-wing generals saying that, the Iran agreement is a good thing, that we need to give up land. It seems to always be against the government's point of view. Yet your organization, 1,200 officers, is standing with the government of Israel. Why isn't there more media attention about what you're doing?
Well, the media, unfortunately, in Israel is very supportive of the idea of a Palestinian state. And for that, they are willing to support withdrawal of critical areas in Israel. So we don't get a lot of media attention, but what we do is educate the young generation, prepare the next generation to understand what are the national security needs of the state of Israel.
You've met recently with our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, to discuss sovereignty, and that as a military issue, this is very important to the state of Israel. What was the response of the government of Israel? Why haven't we declared sovereignty yet?
Well, I think that the government is under a lot of pressure. The Prime Minister understands the importance of sovereignty, yet is not willing to apply it without American consent. He feels that he needs to be sure that in the future we won't be attacked in the UN in a way that might impose sanctions on Israel. So he is waiting for the President Trump to give him the green light to apply sovereignty, and this didn't happen yet.
We see that with the Abrahamic Accords. A lot of people are saying that the price for the peace with United Arab Emirates and Bahrain was giving up on sovereignty. Do you think it's either Abrahamic Accords or sovereignty, or is there a chance that we could get both?
I think we can get both. I don't think that the government gave up on sovereignty, and it was said clearly, we are postponing it. It's on suspension. But having sovereignty in Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley is a far, far bigger interest talking about long-term security than any peace accord in the Middle East. I want to remind you that we had peace with Iran. We had a very good peace with Turkey. And the things change. You know, you sign peace agreements and then things change. Israel's security is an eternal value. This is the first thing we have to make sure happens.
You know, people talk about sovereignty as some sort of land grab, but really it's not moving populations, it's just declaring civilian law instead of military law. So why is it so hard to do something like that? Shouldn't it be just an internal government decision? Why does anyone even care?
Yeah, it should be. But unfortunately, the people in Israel and also abroad are told many lies. They are told that if we apply sovereignty, it's about applying the Israeli law in Israeli population. If we do that, supposedly, we are annexing 2 million Palestinians. This is a lie. The Palestinian Authority will remain as it is. They will continue to have their own lives and their own government. We are talking about applying the Israeli law in Israeli towns. There is no reason whatsoever to have Israeli citizens under military law and not under the Israeli law.
This brings up a bigger question. A Palestinian state in the areas of Judea and Samaria, isn't that a security concern?
Of course it is. If you talk about a Palestinian state that is fully sovereign and has an army and they can go in and out freely without any inspection and they can bring in anybody they want, this is setting the terms for the destruction of the state of Israel. Israel cannot thrive in a scenario like that. This is why Trump's plan is saying what we think is true and should be done. Having a state like San Marino, having a state like Luxembourg, and not a state like some of the generals in the left in Israel want. So you can have the term state, but it must be without military, it must be with full security responsibility of the state of Israel.
We're seeing peace coming around the Middle East with the moderate countries in the Arab world, in Africa as well. But at the same time, Iran is still pumping weapons into Syria, Iraq, Lebanon. How big of a threat is Iran today?
Iran is a huge threat for two reasons. One is the nuclear bombs they are trying to produce. They will be able to do so in a few months. They will be able to start producing their first nuclear bombs. And we have to address that. The state of Israel and the United States have to understand that time is ticking and a decision has to be taken. And we have to be ready to remove this threat even by a military attack or any other way. We cannot live with such a threat. The other thing is that they want to control the whole Middle East. So they are arming different organizations like Hezbollah, Yemen, and so on. And this needs to be stopped. Iran is the main generator of terror in the Middle East.
Amir, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, I think that people have to understand there is nothing more important for the Jewish people, especially talking about the fact that we were thrown twice from our land. For 2,000 years we were persecuted. Now we are back. And we are dealing with one main issue: how to secure the state of Israel for generations to come and make sure that never again, the Jewish people will be under the threat of extinction.
Thank you, Amir, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom, and welcome to the Return to Zion with Keren HaYesod, United Israel Appeal. I'm Sam Grunberg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. After 2,000 years, we found the descendants of the lost tribe of Dan. Please help us welcome our brothers and sisters back home. God bless you from Jerusalem.
He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Isaiah 11:12.
Christians and Jews have been bearing witness to the miraculous fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Since the reestablishment of the State of Israel in 1948, the ingathering of the Jewish people to the Holy Land has unfolded before our very eyes. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bring your children from the east and gather you from the west. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Isaiah 43:5. Today, Keren HaYesod has been tasked with completing one of the greatest examples of the fulfillment of this prophecy, the Aliyah of the Ethiopian Jews, the descendants of the tribe of Dan. On October 29, 2012, we were able to bring 250 new immigrants from Ethiopia to Israel. Keren HaYesod is not only tasked with paying the costs of their flights and accommodations, but also with their absorption into Israeli society. There are still around 2,000 Ethiopian Jews who pray daily to come back to the land of Israel, and we need your help to bring them home. We are reaching out to our Christian brothers and sisters and asking you to join us. In this new century, as in the old, Christians must reach out to the Jewish people and do their part to advance the fulfillment of the prophecy and defend the covenant. Help us bring the children of Israel back to the land of Israel. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. Genesis 12:3.
2,800 שנה של גלות. איך פערים אדירים בגיאוגרפיה, בציוויליזציה, לא יכולים להחליש את הכמיהה הזו, שהביאה כולנו לישראל, והיום גם אתם בבית. ברוכים הבאים.
בכל פעם שנפרדנו, הייתי אומר לכם שיגיע הרגע וניפגש בארץ ישראל. אחיי ואחיותיי, הרגע הגיע. מעומק ליבי אני מאחל לכם ברוכים הבאים למולדת.
Due to the coronavirus pandemic, we're expecting a massive wave of Aliyah from Jewish communities all around the world. Help us bring them home, and let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit khisrael.org.
Prime Minister Orban, welcome to Jerusalem, to you and to your delegation. I think it's a sign of our great friendship that in the first year of your premiership, you chose to come to Israel and chose to come to Israel during this time of Corona. So you're very, very welcome here. A few moments ago, I spoke to our colleague, Sebastian Kurz in Austria. I told him that the people of Israel stand with Austria, as I know the people of Romania do, and so many others, against the savagery of Islamist terrorism. We are cooperating in every way with our intelligence and every other way that we can. The same is true of Corona. I spoke yesterday to my friend Kyriakos Mitsotakis of Greece to see how we can cooperate on Corona. And just recently, 2 hours ago with our colleague Andrej Babic of the Czech Republic to see again how we can cooperate and help each other in this. This is something that happens as a matter of course with Romania. Our friendship has been very, very powerful over many years between the people of Israel and the people of Romania. We have hundreds of thousands of Romanians who came to Israel, and they're a human bridge that familiarize Israelis with Romanian culture and familiarize Romanians with Israeli culture. So it's a living bridge that is a foundation for our common friendship that is growing. We are committed to not only to our common past, but to a future. And the future belongs to those who innovate. Innovation is the key to assuring the prosperity, safety, and health of our people in the future. And in this, Israel and Romania are cooperating in many, many fields. In cybersecurity, in water management, in agriculture, in health, in space, and many other areas. But the most important thing is that our business sectors, our business people, our entrepreneurs, men and women who have innovation on their minds, let them cooperate. And for this purpose, we're going to sign today a treaty on avoiding double taxation, which, from my experience, has always enhanced trade and investments in a very rapid way. So I think this is very good news for Romania and for Israel. Additionally, I want to thank you, Prime Minister, and Romania over the years for helping us present a sensible case to the EU. We're in a period of peace.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Rebecca Rand, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.